Folks, it's time to pull the plug on the Leafs. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, a daily Maple Leaf-centric podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host, Dave Morassutti. You can find the podcast wherever you find and stream your podcast from Apple, Spotify, and you can also find us on YouTube. Today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game of FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Well, hopefully our listeners out there laid a big wager on the Panthers to win tonight and not the Maple Leafs, because that didn't happen. The Leafs fall 5-1 to the Florida Panthers. And Dave, that pretty much seals the deal on the season, doesn't it?
Mike, I have a little sound here I want to play.
Okay. Yeah.
To describe where the Leafs the season currently sits.
Oh, it's dead. It's dead.
For those who didn't hear, Mike and I are wrestling fans over here. Whenever this sound comes about, you know something's dead.
Yeah.
Or something's about to be dead. Let me play it one more time, just to really exclamate the point.
Yeah.
It's done. Finito.
Yeah. Yeah, and look, I'm just stunned again, Dave. Like we're gonna get into a lot on this show here. Like, I mean, we'll obviously break down the game and talk about what went wrong tonight, but just a lot went wrong this season, and it's kind of culminated to a point where the Maple Leafs are now just 3 point. They have a 3% chance, according to MoneyPuck.com, just a 3% chance of making the playoffs at this point after a regulation loss tonight to the Florida Panthers. It's virtually done. It's not impossible that I guess mathematically they are not eliminated from the playoffs. But, with this loss here, it's pretty much over. We thought that it was an uphill climb after they lost to Tampa. And I said it going into the game, must win tonight. Absolute must win and must win in regulation. Need that full 2 points and kind of fend off the Panthers, who are coming up right behind you. Not only did they not pick up 2 points, they lost in regulation, grabbing 0. And I'm just stunned at, again, just how the Leafs could possibly come out with a lack of urgency again. I mean, the team legitimately had their season on the line, and 5 minutes into the game, it's 2 Cobb. 10 minutes into the game, they're being outshot 14-2, no scoring chances. They're being outworked, outplayed. They're down 3-0 after 20 minutes. It was ugly. That first 20 minutes might have been the worst 20 minutes the Leafs have played all season. And with your year on the line, the season on the line, that's the effort you start with. I'm just absolutely floored that that's how the Maple Leafs came out tonight. Floored.
Yeah, when you allow 16 shots in the opening period, and I think they finished with what? 4 or 5 shots?
6. I think it was 16-6, but it was 14-2 at one point with 5 minutes to go in the period. So they got a couple shots toward the end there, but the first 15 minutes, they were nowhere to be seen. Nowhere.
At one point, Mike Johnson's they look a little bit fatigued, and I'm like, a little. It looks like that. It's like how is that any different from normal? They always look tired on the ice. They always look like the slower team on the ice. They always look the step behind. And you're letting Brad Marchand, who is not a spry chicken himself, go and have that type of game. If management needed any more reason to see where this team's mentality is at in terms of making or trying to make a playoff push, that's where their head's at.
They're done. You couldn't possibly look at this game against Florida and think, hey, we could still salvage it. Like, look at the next few games. You're like, you got Ottawa, right? If you go back home, you get a win in Ottawa. Maybe Philly, you can pick up 2 points. The Jersey, they suck. The Rangers, they suck. You could possibly win 4 more games between now and the deadline. But like, what does that do for you? Where does that get you at the end of the day? The team has proven against quality opponents that they're not even in the same hemisphere as them, right? They're just not. They get outplayed, they get outskated, they're outmuscled, they're outsmarted. Like they're not a contender anymore. That's just not what the Maple Leafs are, right? Like it's just not even close at this point. And that's really what I've learned from these first 2 games coming out of the Olympic break. They gave you that little glimmer of hope when they beat Calgary, who's one of the worst teams in the league. Congratulations on beating Calgary. And they beat Vancouver again, the worst team in the league. Congratulations on beating Vancouver. And then, they had an impressive victory against Edmonton where Anthony Stolarz kind of stood on his head and got them the win. And maybe that tricked us into believing like, hey, maybe this team is putting it together and they could come out and have themselves a good stretch coming out of the Olympic break. Nope. 2 duds back-to-back. They get absolutely outclassed in both games by the Florida Panthers and the Tampa Bay Lightning. And I'm sorry, the season's over now. Like I have zero hope in this team anymore of making a playoff push. Like I'm raising the white flag, Dave. The white flag is up. The for sale sign is on the lawn, ready to move on and look forward to 26, 27 to try and retool this thing and go back at it next year somehow. Because the team this season, not good enough to do anything this year. So
no, there's in so many ways have they been outmatched by their opponent.
Yep.
Goaltending, blue line, forwards. There are not a lot. There have been games that they have won, but on a lot, even in some of the games they've won, they have looked like the team that's been outmatched. Right? We have seen the decline right from the start of the season. That that whatever happened last year felt like a mirage. Pretty much is a mirage, because that team. I don't know where that team went to. That team is gone. That team doesn't exist anymore.
Well, one of the big members of that team's in Vegas now, but that's a conversation for another time.
By the way, I did not use the mirage joke as any sort of like foreplay in the fact that I didn't really connect the dots in that regard either.
Yeah,
it's a happy coincidence, but there's a lot that has to be put on the plate of so many people within the organization, top to bottom, management, coaching, and players. It's what it really boils down to.
And you know what even really kind of bothers me a little bit? The fact that the team, like, they had all that time. I mean, a majority of fans were ready to put the for sale sign, even, that when they lost to Buffalo, right before they went on that road trip and, route off those 3 wins. That loss to Buffalo really struck a nerve with most Leaf fans. And that was when a lot of the fan base kind of got off the boat and was like, this team ain't it. Like that was a big game. They had to get up for it and they didn't. They lost. And okay, they went on to win 3 the next 4, afterward to kind of salvage, that portion of the schedule. But that was kind of a very telling game as to where the team was. And somehow, management and ownership and the coaching staff, the players themselves, looked themselves in the mirror over the course of the Olympic break and convinced themselves that they still had an opportunity to salvage the season. But like that to me is a problem, that Brad Treliving and, wasn't able to really properly break down what this team is, what they are, what they lack, what they need, and come up with a plan coming out of here where it's okay. This isn't it this year. This is not where we're going to be. And, for me, one of the things that really bothers me about these last couple games, one, the lack of urgency, right? Obviously not starting on time in both of them. It's just absolutely embarrassing. The lack of consistency, not playing full 60-minute games, atrociously, in their own end. But the other thing too, like if this team truly had turned the page, right, then you would think Easton Cowan would be in the lineup. why the hell is Easton Cowan sitting up in the press box when this team should be focused on next season? It's because they're not. This team clearly felt that they still had an opportunity to salvage the year. And, they felt that Easton Cowan did not give them the best chance to win either of these 2 games, clearly. And they wanted to go with the veteran group. And they're letting this guy just wither away up in the press box. Like, he's your top prospect, 20-year-old prospect who you have high hopes for, who needs to be a big part of your organization. And you're just letting him wither away in the press box. And it just baffles me how they could possibly, allow the team to do that. How Brad Schumann could allow the coach to do this, because that's a coach's decision. The coach has the lineup.
Yep.
But clearly that's a directive from management and from ownership. Like, hey, we're still in it. We still want to try and win.
Yep.
And now I would imagine after tonight's game, I think Ottawa will be different. I do expect Easton Cowan to be in the lineup for that game and every other game moving forward, because it's just ridiculous that this guy has not been in the lineup over the last couple of games. That too is just another little thing that has irked me. And considering that the season's a wash, get your top prospect out there, get him minutes, get him games. Guys have played in a month. It's outrageous.
It's outrageous. And this is what happens when you have a coach like Craig Berube, who brought in to do one thing, and that is, as you said, like the directive is to compete.
Mm-hmm.
If the coach doesn't trust the rookie, because a lot of veteran coaches feel a certain way about rookies, when we know Craig Berube has a pass with this, that rookie ain't going to play. And I mean, we heard what he had to say about Cowan. Do you want me to play the clip so we can?
Yeah, let's play the clip. This was pre-game, before the game today. He was asked why Easton Cowan was going to be a healthy scratch once again for a second straight game after 3 weeks off before coming back to hockey.
Easton hasn't played since late January. Yeah. What's your sense of where he's at, just with his development right now?
Yeah, no, and it's what has he got? 40-some games this year played for us. I at the time I took him out of the lineup, I felt like he hit a bit of a wall. We won 3 in a row, so I kept the same lineup going into the game against last night against Tampa. It's decisions that I make as a coach, and I don't believe his development is getting hurt. I think he's improved, this year as the year went along, and I think he still has the swagger that's needed. He's a confident kid. Now, saying that, he's got to get in there and play, and that's our job to get him in there at some point here.
How do you do that?
Well, we got to make decisions on people, and that's basically what it boils down to.
I mean,
I've never heard a coach contradict himself as badly as Craig Berube did there.
You have it's you. It's
coach's
your
decision.
Card. It's your decision.
It's the coach's decision not to play him, and then the coach goes and says, "We got to find a way to get him in there." Okay, Craig, you got the lineup card. Go and get him in there. You're on a back-to-back. Your team looked absolutely dreadful last night. Maybe inject some different blood into the lineup. Don't just make Callie Yonkrock for Dakota Joshua as your only lineup change when you've got a young player sitting and waiting, probably hungry for an opportunity to play. Also, he said he hit a wall. That was a month ago. Maybe he's broken through that wall in that time. You know who's hit the wall, Mike?
Everyone else?
The entire Leafs team has hit a wall. I'm sorry, but I'm glad that they asked and they didn't just let that one answer be it. That they said, so what does he have to pretty much do to get back in the lineup? It's clear there's no plan for Easton Cowan right now. And that's why I said, if you're not playing him, put him down with the Mars. Oh, wait, they can't because they played him too many games and he wasn't eligible to be sat or put down to the AHL during the Olympics. Bravo.
Yeah, but if they were going to play him for the first 2 games coming out of the Olympics, they could have sent him down, a couple days ago and got him some games. And if he's not part of the plan, now moving forward, he has to be part of the plan. Obviously, he's got to get his minutes and whatnot. But to your point, a couple of things there in that clip, He hit a wall. Okay, that he hit a wall a month ago, and you sat him for the final 3 games leading into, the Olympic break. But don't you think the Olympic break could have been a little reset for him, and then the week of practice before he started playing games could have been a nice chance for him to work on his skills and kind of refresh himself and get back and get himself back into form and give him an opportunity coming out of that game. All right, fine. You won 3 in a row at that lineup. You want to play the same lineup you did in Edmonton in Tampa in your first game back. All right, fine, whatever. I'll give you that one. But then you get blown out of the water by the Tampa Bay Lightning. In what way do you not go to Easton Cowan in tonight's game against Florida? It just doesn't make any sense. It's very contradicting. It's very annoying. It's very I just can't understand what's going on here right now with this team. But yeah, I would imagine that he'll be part of the mix moving forward. I think you look now in the team, it's time to trade off pieces. And as more pieces leave the lineup, leave the roster, that's going to allow more space and opportunity for the Easton Cowans of the world, the Jacob Quillans of the world, and other guys down in the Marlies who, may get their opportunity up with the Maple Leafs the rest of the way, because they're not fighting for a playoff spot anymore. It's time to look forward to next season and see who could be part of the future of the Maple Leafs, because this year don't matter no more. 2 brutal losses coming out of the break. It sunk them. It sunk all chances that they had, and it's time to move on. Let's take a break. Let's come back. Let's continue to dig into the loss tonight, talk about what's gone wrong all season long, and it's time to sell for the Maple Leafs. Who do they have available? And there's a couple names that are in the market right now, and there's a couple of teams kind of circling the Maple Leafs. We'll tell you who those guys are next in the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's show is brought to you by Indeed. Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have to fill still sitting open. When the pressure's on, you need the right hire. This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. Indeed sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. Skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's the stat that says it all. In the minute I've been talking to you, companies like yours made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of the show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. Mike DiStefano and David Morassutti with you, as we are each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, with brand new episodes of the Locked On Leafs podcast. You can find us wherever you get a podcast, and also subscribe to the podcast on YouTube as well. Brand new daily Maple Leafs podcast coming to you. The Leafs with a 5-1 loss to the Florida Panthers. They were able to get one. They got one past Bobrovsky. I will say Bobrovsky was very good tonight. He was excellent. And the Leafs did have a little bit of a push later in the game. They did have, a decent amount of opportunities and chances. Bobrovsky was really good. But the fact that it took half the game for them to get going and get into that attack mentality is why the team is where they are. And you look at it all season long, the lack of consistency from this group, the inability to play a full 60-minute performance is really what killed them this year. I could probably count on one hand how many 60-minute performances they've had this year. We're almost 60 games into the season, and I can count on one hand how many times, I could sit there and say, hey, they played great from puck drop to the final whistle. And tonight, certainly not one of them. And that's the difference between good teams and bad teams, though. Consistency and the ability to play 60 games, or at least the ability to quickly turn it around when things go south. Not the case with the Maple Leafs. I mean, they allow a goal a couple minutes into the game. They allow a second one on the power play not too long after. And then, boy, oh boy, what a disgusting turnover by William Nylander there on the power play. Evan Rodriguez ends up with a shorthanded goal on the breakaway. And I couldn't help, Dave, but just laugh. It got to that point where I couldn't help but just laugh at that situation, because I knew at that point, season's over. That was it. Once they gave up that goal there, it was boom. They're not winning this game. They're not a serious team. This game's over. The season's over.
The Leafs have now allowed 30 shots on goal in 14 of their last 15 games.
Yeah, not shocked.
It's funny. You read that stat and you're just okay, very not surprised about that, because, at one point, I'm pretty sure it was said that Evan Rodriguez had more shots in the first period than the Leafs did. It's just you see the way that this game was going, and at no point
14 of the last 15 games. Is that what the stat was?
Yeah,
brutal. Okay, continue.
If the only shining moment of your team over the last two games is that your video challenge coaches
are 3 for 3.
They have won 20.
They've saved 3 goals for you. They've saved more goals than you've scored. That's how bad it's been for the Toronto Maple Leafs, or just as many.
Whatever those two guys are getting paid, not enough, because they have won. This is the stat that's out there. The Leafs have won 20 straight offside challenges dating back to 2022.
It's actually 22, because that stat was based on the first one yesterday, and they had another one in that game, and then another one tonight.
Sorry, so 22 straight.
Yeah.
If that's the only part of your organization that's going well for you.
Well, the other reason why that comes into play is because you're giving up goals. If you're not giving up goals, then that isn't really a factor. That's not even a good thing.
And the assistant's going, can we try to anything? It's bro, our defensemen are falling over each other. We can't challenge that stuff.
They did though. They did challenge that one.
It's just what do you want? They're find something. It's oh my, it's just we can't. As I said yesterday, the video guys can't score the goals either. They can't force this team to have possession at any point in the first period. And you're getting, and if people are looking, and I always say this, if you're looking for the players to give you anything insightful post game, don't waste your breath. Don't even bother reading or watching any of the post game stuff, because they're just gonna feed you the same robotic stuff that all hockey players usually do. They don't expect it. They don't. Yeah. It's not gonna happen. If you're people are Austin Matthews needs to come and face the media. So he can just say we need to play with more urgency and more desperation.
Oh, this is what he said today. And I mean, I guess I'm on the train that you're referring to, because it still annoys me that this is the response to this question. But he was asked today, Dave, why did your team lack urgency to start again? His answer, I don't know. We should have the same energy and desperation, or we should have the energy and desperation that we need to start the game that we had in the second and third period. Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, he knows, but he's not going to say it.
Well, I mean,
if he doesn't know, then that, to me, I don't know has really been
Well, what's the answer, Dave? Well, what's the answer then? What is the answer for why the team lacked urgency to start the game? What is the answer?
Because every single team that comes and plays the Leafs know that if you give just an ounce of effort, if you play with a little more effort, the Leafs can't match it. That's all you have to do against this Leafs team is put
why? But the question is why? Why can't you match that effort? That's the question.
To me, I don't know if it's mentality. I actually wonder if it's more than just mentality, and the fact that this team is just so goddamn slow. They're slow. They don't know how. Jake McCabe, I think it was the Marchand goal.
Yeah.
Has a puck on his stick and throws it not only to the middle of the ice, but to the team not wearing the same color jersey as him. And he's done this countless times.
Yeah.
And so, like, when you do stuff like that, when you're careless, like those things, like that puts you flat-footed when you have to. Okay, we thought we were going to break out. Now we got to come back in. They now smell blood in the water, and it comes into the back of the net. Like I think in a lot of ways it's mentality. At this point, it just seems like it's mentality with this Leafs team. They're fragile.
Well, so if it's mentality, I mean, is that fixable? Is that fixable with this leadership group? Or because we're talking about, even if the Maple Leafs do become sellers, right? The guys we're talking about them moving most likely, unless something catastrophic happens and they get an offer that knocks their socks off. We're probably talking about Bobby McMahon, maybe Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Scott Laughton, maybe a Brandon Carlo, maybe a Steven Lorentz, a Simon Benoit, one of the goalies. Nothing earth-shattering, nothing that's going to shake the core. But that's the problem, I think. Like, if we're talking about fragility, that's been there for as long as this Matthews, Nylander, throw Tavares and Riley into the mix. For as long as that core has been there, right? Like that core 4 era. Marner's gone, sure, but that same issue that was there still remains. So the question is, if it's fragility, Dave, does a retool do anything? Like, ultimately, does a retool do anything? Unless these guys have a absolute 180 change in how they play, how they think the game, and I don't know if you can bank on that next year. Are we going to have any more success next season with this group?
I used to think that probably you can maybe think a reset might help this team, but I just don't know. I really don't, because when Nick Robertson is the only one giving your best effort in the first period, where he puts all he can on the back check and somehow finds a way to get an opportunity on the net.
Yeah. Hardest on pucks tonight. I think he was the hardest on pucks in the first.
And like we're talking about him being traded from the team. And it's like, you know what? Why are we trading a Nick Robertson when he's actually putting in the effort?
Yeah.
Why is that guy being thrown out there? And you know what? Like,
well, he might get you a mid-round pick.
Yeah.
Is why.
And like, which is okay. Like, if that's sure. Yeah, I have no problem with that. But he's also at an age too where it's like there's still something in the tank left for him to offer going forward, right? Yeah. It has to be a good enough return where you can actually say, okay. Like, but here's the other problem. They sit 22nd in the league right now. Like,
there's much worse problems than sitting 22nd in the league. I'm taking a look at the natural stat trick team stats right now just to see where they're at. Just curious. They are dead last in the league at 5-on-5 goals against. They've allowed 147 goals against. It's dead last, ranked 32nd. They're ranked 32nd in scoring chances allowed, with 1,417 scoring chances allowed. And, they also rank 5th last in high danger chances given up. So defensively, they're horrendous. They can't stop a puck. They're giving up way too many scoring chances, making it difficult on the goaltenders. And then they're just not getting the saves. When they're hung out to dry, they're not getting those miraculous, game-saving stops they were getting a season ago that made their team look and feel better. Because, I mean, let's not forget last year, although they won the division and, defensively, they didn't give up a whole lot of goals. The goals against per game was fairly low. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I remember
I'm looking up right now.
Low. You look at the expected numbers for the Maple Leafs, though, it wasn't pretty. And that was something where you talk about regression. Last season, the Maple Leafs had 5-on-5. Their expected goal differential, they were 23rd in the NHL last year with an expected goal percentage of 48%. So the Leafs were punching way above their weight, and there was always a thought that if they don't get the saves, this thing's not going to look as pretty next season. And this year, they haven't gotten the saves, Dave. They just haven't gotten the saves. And now
I don't blame the goalies in a lot of, like, when you look at this game, especially.
They're giving up more scoring chances and more high danger chances than any team in the league. So, no, you can't sit there and blame the goaltenders. You can't. You really, really can't. You know, it's the team. It's the way they play. And the worst part is that this blue line is all locked in next season. Like, there's no UFAs on the blue line except Troy Stetcher. But you've got 6 guys. Unless you make trades and you start wheeling and dealing, you're going to return the same blue line next year, and they're going to be a year older and a year slower. Like, there's a problem there, and I think that's something that has to be addressed moving into next season. And I think when you start selling off pieces, that's probably where you got to start. I think you got to look at a couple of guys, probably Oliver Ekman-Larsson. You know, this summer you have to explore moving on from Morgan Riley. Just got to figure out a way, you know, to make that go away. You know, I don't want to bring back Simon Benoit. Do you? Just certainly not. You know, like it's and you know, there's just it's not good. The Leafs are not in a good spot, and you know, there's still 24 games to go here, and we'll see what the Maple Leafs can do moving forward. If they can give you any glimmer of hope that maybe next season will be any better, but this year it's pretty shot. It's pretty shot. Let's come back, Dave. Let's come back because there are a couple of names that have reportedly been discussed out there. Some teams calling on these guys already. So we'll talk about that. Talk about what the Maple Leafs could do over the next week or so, leading up to the trade deadline next Friday. That's next on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Factor. Cold days, packed schedule, and big goals, that's winter. And when there's not a lot of time to cook, eating well can feel like another big thing on the to-do list. That's where Factor comes in. Factor makes healthy eating easy with fully prepared meals designated by dietitians and crafted by chefs so you can eat well without the planning, prepping, or cooking. Factor meals are always fresh, never frozen, and ready in about 2 minutes. The ingredients stand out: lean proteins, colorful veggies, whole foods, and healthy fats. No refined sugars, no artificial sweeteners, and no refined seed oils. And there's tons of variety with 100 rotating meals each week, so it never gets boring. It's perfect for busy weeks when you still want meals that support your goals without the stress. Head to factormeals.com/LockedOnNHL50 off and use the code LockedOnNHL50 off to get 50% and free breakfast for a year. Eat like a pro this month with Factor. New subscribers only, varies by plan. 1 free breakfast item per box for 1 year while subscription is active. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. Everyone to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, FanDuel is giving you a chance to turn that dream into a reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, and the whole experience. If you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a deep run, this is the perfect time to lock it in. I love futures this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the championship, grab a conference title, picking a player prop, a futures, whatever it may be. It adds that extra layer of excitement to every game down the stretch. And now, not only can you pick cash, but you can also send yourself to the NBA Finals. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use the profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with the FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. The Locked On Leafs podcast continues. Mike DiStefano, David Morassutti with you. The Maple Leafs losing 5-1 to the Florida Panthers, and it's over. That was the final nail in the coffin. You know, a lot of Leafs Nation kind of hung around the lifeboat for as long as possible, but most are realizing the Undertaker is coming and putting to rest the Toronto Maple Leafs after that performance. And they got the Ottawa Senators tomorrow. So, you know, it's a game, and watch them play a 60-minute performance and kind of give this team life again, or at least trick themselves into thinking they're giving this team life. I'm out, though. I'm out. Don't let me, Dave. Even if they win every game from here to the deadline, do not let me think that this team is back into the fold. I know that they have no hope in hell in doing anything. You know what's actually best case scenario, Dave? It's best case scenario that they sell and continue to win. And
yep.
I think it's possible because, again, the team's not trading away their best players. That's the thing. They're trading away. They're trimming the fat, right? You look at the guys who are on the trade block for the Leafs. Scott Laughton, Bob McMahon, Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Who else is out there really that the Leafs are going to move? Again, like maybe a Benoit. Could they possibly get some interest in Nicolas Waugh? Probably. I think he'd be a commodity out there. But realistically, those guys aren't deciding games for the Maple Leafs. So I think it's still possible that this team will win some games down the stretch, even if they move off of some players. Do I think they win enough games to get into the playoffs? No. But I think they can win enough games to ensure that the Boston Bruins don't end up with the best selection possible. So that's really, I guess, the win-win scenario for Toronto. They move off some pieces, recoup some assets, and kind of continue along to being, a 10 to, or I guess like the 20th best team in the NHL, I guess is kind of where they'd be outside looking in on the playoffs. That might be best case scenario at this point, considering the playoffs very much I mean, it's a long stretch to get to the playoffs. I think that would be next week.
Yeah, I mean, look, like I have no the problem I have is if you go and you trade all these guys and bring all these young guys up, will Craig Berube even play them?
Well, who else is going to play?
I know.
I mean,
pull a money ball, a Brad Pitt money ball.
Yep.
Trade the guys away that are You're at the point where a lot of guys on this team, like, it's hard to defend, like, to say, yeah, I think he should stick around. Like, he'll be a valuable piece going forward. Like,
let me ask you this, Dave. What players would you like to see the Leafs trade that you think there's some value on that they can actually get, a decent return for? Who would you like to see them trade between now and next Friday's deadline?
Well, I mean, Bob McMahon, because I don't see them signing him. Like, at this point, let somebody else.
Did you hear the number that's being thrown out there?
Oh, yeah.
Pegnotta threw around 5x5. That might be the number that the McMahon camp is looking for.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You're not Zach Hyman. I'm sorry. Like, you're a bit of a Hyman light type of player, but you're not Zach Hyman. I'm sorry. I'm letting that walk.
I would like to know who his agent is because I want to just just want to have a conversation about where their head is at on that one there. So Bobby McMahon for sure. Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like, just because I just think that his value,
he'll be worth more now than he will next year.
I still think he'd be valuable for a team looking for a veteran defenseman that can play in the top, play on your second pair, but even on a contending team, third pair defenseman. Yep. It's free money there with him because you signed him as a free agent. It worked out pretty good.
Yeah, but
he's a player that you can, like, teams going to be desperate for defensemen. All right, we got a defenseman. Here you go. And I know he has a 16-team no trade list. And I think there was a report out there that his wife is due to give birth at some point soon. I'm like, well, of course that would happen. But you know what? Like, OEL, I'm sure if they present him with an opportunity, I'm sure they'll find a way. Like Brandon Carlo, if a team wants Brandon Carlo, all right, you're not going to get the Minton package. That ain't happening, but you know what? I don't see him being a player that's going to suddenly turn things around either. It's just, I don't know how many, like, some of the guys, I know for a fact, like, as much as you want to see Morgan Riley get traded, I don't know if that happens now.
Neither do
I. I don't see a team stepping up and making you an offer right now. Maybe in the offseason you can have that conversation and figure that out. I would even entertain Jake McCabe too. But like no one on this blue line should be seen as untouchable, in my opinion. Nobody. That whole blue line should be looked at and saying, okay, like, this needs to be reworked, which is ridiculous to think considering where last year we were like, you know what, like, the blue line's actually working out not too bad. It needs in today's NHL, this blue line has proven it just doesn't fit with the current construct of what the NHL needs from defensemen. They need to go in a different direction there. Like Max Domi, prepare to hear your name out there too. Nick Waugh, I would entertain moving Nick Waugh. I don't like Cal Youngkrok. I think he's stapled to this team until the end of the year. Let his contract run out. Like that's
no one's picking up Callie Youngkrok.
Yeah, Scott Lawton. If the right offer comes around, I'll move him. Yeah, like I'm not saying just give away Scott Lawton because I think you have to think about what you gave up to get a Scott Lawton. The fact that maybe if you trade some of these other guys and you give Scott Lawton a little more opportunity, maybe he's a player that surprises you and maybe you want to keep around for a bit because
he's 31. He's gonna be 32. Like, you really want to sign this guy to a 4 or 5 year deal?
Oh no, if it's a 4 or 5 year deal, I ain't doing that.
I mean, that might be what he's looking for. A little security and his career in Toronto. Like, he might, take a little less,
he'll take less money, which I mean, you're going to need players going forward. You can't have just all young guys going forward.
I'm just, obviously you're not giving anyone away. That's obvious, but I certainly wouldn't be hanging up the phone if someone says, "Hey, I want to chat Scott Lawton." It's like, yeah, I'm all yours.
Yeah, no, I would have the conversation, but if like, oh, we'll give you a 3rd round pick and a B level.
Well, yeah, it's got to be a respectable deal.
Yeah, like the deal has to make sense. Like you can't just be like Matthias Michelli. That's another player, right? That he had a brutal game tonight. Like there was nothing really good about his game. Like he's been way too hot and cold, and I don't think he. The other thing too is, sorry, you have to figure out the long-term plan here too with this. Like, how many of these guys realistically fit the long-term vision? And that is where I have the big problem right now.
Yeah, again, so like you're looking, it's like, okay, Matthews, Nylander, Nyes,
Tavares.
I mean, sure, like if you're talking long term is in next year, I guess Tavares, but like how much longer is Tavares, I guess, gonna be that guy for you? But I suppose, yeah.
Just because like he's locked in, right? And he's got all the say in everything that happens with him.
I guess Easton Cowan's not someone you're gonna really entertain in moving at this deadline.
Unless you can get a defenseman back that you maybe can swap a good young forward for a younger defenseman that gives you more of what you need than what you don't have, right?
Yeah, but there's not a lot of teams out there trading away talented young defensemen. So, anyone not named those 5 guys, honestly, probably you're answering phone calls on. I think when you talk about realistic players who could be dealt away, because I went back and I looked. I was like, okay, everyone's using the Boston Bruins as the model that the Leafs should use going into this trade deadline, right? A team that retooled pretty easily. They moved on from some pretty good players, got good returns, and were able to get back on the horse the following season. So that's the hope with the Maple Leafs here. They made 4 trades, pretty sizable deals too. Yep. The final week leading up to last year's NHL trade deadline. So it's possible to make a flurry of trades and make some significant amount of deals. So it's not as though, you can only expect to move one of these guys or 2 of these guys. The Bruins, they moved off of Marchand. They moved off of Brandon Carlo, Charlie Coyle, Trent Frederick, a bunch of other lower level guys. They trade away a Justin Brazeau, Mark McLaughlin, like a real depth level player. Like they were able to make 4, 5, 6 deals within that final week, and they got picks and prospects and kind of reshaped their team to go at it this season, and it's been a success. They're currently in a playoff spot. Yep. So that's the formula that Toronto's trying to, I guess, follow. So if you're thinking, okay, it's possible to have 4 or 5 guys get traded off your team, you can make 4 or 5 trades within a week and get it done. If you're creative enough, or if you are, urgent enough to get this done. So yeah, I think like Bob McMahon, Scott Lawton, like Steven Lorentz. I mean, if someone comes up to me and then there's an offer here on Michelli, on Nick Leroy, on Nick Robertson, I'm all ears. I'm listening on those guys. Like those are not pieces that I think are, imperative to keep around for the future. I think they're replaceable guys, right? So I'd be open to hearing offers on all of those players. And I think you're right. There's no one that fits the mold of irreplaceable or, untouchable on the blue line. Like Jake McCabe would be the closest, I guess, just because, he's signed long-term at a pretty good cap hit and still a pretty good player. And he's got a full no trade. But other than that, it's like, hey, Troy Stetcher, great story. You want a 3rd-round pick for Troy Stetcher? Take him. Brandon Carlo, can we get a prospect? Can we possibly get a 2nd-round pick out of it? Recoup what we lost from last year? Yeah, sure. Let's make that deal. OEL, Riley, Benoit, Philip Myers, one of the goalies. Is there interest in Anthony Stolars? Let's try and get a deal there. Maybe a team wants, to bring in a little bit of stability in net. Wide open, man. Like open for business is where the Maple Leafs should be at this time. Because if they want to retool this thing, they're going to have to, get a bunch of picks and prospects and then probably use those picks and prospects to make trades in the summer to get better. That's the thing too. Like it doesn't have to be this year's 1st and 2nd round picks. It could be 2027 picks. And then you flip those in the summer to teams who are looking to move off of some players, and that's a way where you can end up getting better. It doesn't have to be through free agency or through draft and develop. Maybe you can draft or trade some younger players, get some picks, prospects, and use those again to bring in some other guys who can help you a little bit. So, yeah, it's the white flag's up, man. Time to sell. Everything's got to be on the table here, and we'll see what the Leafs got. We'll see. You think that there's one trade made by the time we're back on the show on Monday? You think we see anything over the course of the weekend after what we saw here in Florida?
We're a week out, so I think the deals are going to be coming soon.
Well, but for the Leafs, do you think we see
I think you could see one for sure. I think we can see one.
Yeah, I think so too. Sounds like there's some interest there in OEL. Sounds like the Oilers have interest in Oliver Ekman-Larsson. Maybe we can dive into that a little bit more on Monday. We got to fly for today, though. I'd like to thank everyone for listening and enjoying the show. Supporting the show, you can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on Twitter at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at @D_Morassutti, and follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode for you guys on Monday. Enjoy the weekends. Leafs and Sens tomorrow night. Not that it matters anymore. We'll catch you back here on Monday. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.